Hey guys, how's it going? We are here with Rawson Marshall Thurber. Thank you for being here, man.
Happy to.
Writer and director of Skyscraper, coming out soon. And we got a cool clip that we brought with us.
Let's watch.
Let's watch that. So this is one of the many obstacles that Dwayne Johnson's got to get through.
Yeah. So the turbine sequence is it was really complicated and super fun in the movie. So the building is called the Pearl, and it's 240 stories high, and about 2/3 of the way to the top, there's this big sort of double helix wind turbine section. It's like this eye hole that's cut through the building. In the reality of the movie, it's a building that creates its own power through solar, through wind. But as soon as I sort of put these giant spinning kind of egg beater blades in it, I went, you know what? What if he had to go into that thing?
We should use those.
We should use those. It seems like a waste, right? But to me, that sequence always reminds me of one of my all-time favorite films, which is Galaxy Quest.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like the Omega 13, right? Where like Sigourney Weaver and Tim Allen have to go down, and there's like the one section they get into, and it's just a bunch of like slamming vices. And
what is the point?
Yeah. What is the point? This is a poorly written episode. And so it always seems, it is without question the most over-the-top part of our story. But I really love it, and it's pretty exciting.
Well, that's one of the questions that I have is this is a film that's built on all these different obstacles of him, having to rescue his family and stop bad guys and all that good stuff. What are some of the challenges of sort of building those sequences of tension? Because this sequence takes place 2/3 of the way-ish through the movie. So can you talk about like how to build those type of sequences to make sure you're escalating it in the right way?
It's a great question, because there's certainly the action sequence, like in the individual sequences, and they need to have their own build, right? That has to do that. But then you have to look at the story as a whole. So when you're designing an action picture, like I've done it 100 times. It's my first action film. But from the reading I've done, and the one that I've made, you want to escalate your set pieces. You want to escalate your tension, your action, so that the last piece, the Death Star, the third act set piece, is more thrilling than anything that has come before. And that's the trick of it, and it takes a lot of thought and a lot of practice and a lot of preparation.
On top of that, to be working with Dwayne Johnson in building these sequences and in designing like action around him, and here's a guy who's punched out literally everything that he can possibly punch out at this point. Like, what was some of the thought process into like, how do I make Dwayne Johnson believably struggle in this situation?
Dwayne is, the biggest star on the planet, and certainly the biggest action star on the planet.
He beat up a werewolf in his last movie.
Did he? Yeah, he sure did. Well, yeah, he's the biggest, both literally and figuratively. But he's functionally immortal. He's bulletproof. He's a hero. He's a superhero without a cape. And so when I was talking to Dwayne about it, I guess the one thing that I haven't seen him do before is be vulnerable in a movie and barely survive. And I honestly think that's what audiences relate to. They don't relate to strength and cool. They relate to vulnerability and effort and heart. Early audiences who've seen it, the resounding feedback has been, we hate this movie.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Which is really unfortunate.
No. The resounding feedback has been we've never seen Dwayne like this. It's his best performance, and I can't tell you how gratifying that is to me. And I know how hard Dwayne worked on it. He doesn't toot his own horn enough about that, and he certainly doesn't get the credit he deserves. But we talked a lot about wanting him, like you said, like we've all seen him punch out a werewolf.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see him think his way out of a problem instead of punch his way out of a problem. And I wanted to see him struggle and fail. And the opening of the picture does just that. One
of my all-time favorite movies is about a regular guy stuck in a crazy situation in Die Hard.
Never seen it.
Never seen it?
I've not heard of it.
You should check it out.
Die Hard?
Die
Am I
Hard.
pronouncing that right? It's not going to work.
It's not going to work. It's too violent a title.
Yeah.
So this movie is halfway between sort of Die Hard and the Towering Inferno and these disaster type pictures. Are there, and you mentioned Galaxy Quest already, are there any other films that spring to mind in terms of an inspiration for either that sort of everymanness or even like tension building?
So certainly obviously Die Hard is on the Mount Rushmore of action films. It's one of my all-time favorite films, and Towering Inferno, classic. And so Skyscraper is absolutely a love letter to those movies. I grew up on late 80s, early 90s action, and I've wanted to make an action picture since I was 8 years old. When I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark in this tiny little 2-screen theater in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and I've just always wanted to do it. Yeah. And so this is kind of all my 8-year-old sort of action boy fantasies kind of crammed into one movie with the biggest action star in the world. For me, like, it's certainly Die Hard, it's certainly Towering Inferno. There's a little bit of Fugitive sprinkled in for good measure. There's this one film, you may not know it, it's an early 90s action action film that I love. It was a Rennie Harlan picture called Cliffhanger, starring Sylvester Stallone.
John Lithgow as a bad guy, I will take
all
any
day
of the
all
week.
day, right?
Yeah.
So good. But what I love about that movie is the opening. And you talked about action and tension, and that's one where, like, you know, he's holding her by her hand and her glove starts slipping through his hand, and she says, "Don't drop me." And she slips through his hand, and he does drop her, and she dies. Spoiler alert. And
Spoiler alert for the first 5 minutes of Cliffhanger.
So sorry, everybody. You know, it's 92? We're allowed to do it.
So
at
we're
any
past
rate.
the statute of limitations on that one.
It's a cold open where the hero fails, and I just haven't seen that done in a long time.
Yeah.
Or done well, and because typically, you know, that opening tension scene will happen, and Dwayne solves the problem, and you know, and they crack a beer or crack a joke.
Like, look at what a good hero this guy is.
Yeah, he's the guy, right?
Yeah.
But what I love about a cold open where the hero fails is that the following narrative is the thing that exercises that demon. That journey is the thing that heals that wound, and that's what we have here, I hope.
Yeah, no, and I'm right there with you in the late 80s, early 90s. And I'm glad that you mentioned Cliffhanger too, because like that whole era of movies, I think, is one of the reasons why I responded so well to this one. Like, it was just blast.
Oh,
and
cool.
those scenes were like literally, like, my palms were sweating.
Is that right?
Right there with, yeah. One other question that I have for you is your next project coming up, Red Notice. And that's also got Dwayne Johnson and Gal Gadot, and that's an Interpol agent going after an art thief.
That's exactly right.
Which is
Do you want to see it?
Do you have it?
Yeah, I finished.
You on your phone?
Actually, no, I just started writing it last week.
Oh,
actually.
nice.
Yeah, I just
Very
started
cool.
writing. I mean, there's nothing more delicious than writing the first act of a first draft of a screenplay. I mean, it's just fun. There are no problems yet. You haven't screwed it up yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's nobody telling you can't afford it.
It's just like, look at all these cool people I just met.
You're just like,
sure.
yeah. So, anyways, Red Notice. It's we start shooting April 1st. Comes out June 12th, 2020. Please pre-order now. It's Dwayne plays an Interpol agent tasked with capturing the most wanted art thief in the world.
And just reading that, like, I immediately went back to my McTiernan, Thomas Crown affair kind of vibe.
Clint, you've done this before.
Hey, all right.
So it's very much a champagne picture, right? Like when you talk about movies, there's, you know, roughly speaking, like two big buckets, right? You could either there's whiskey films and there's champagne films, and they're equally great. You know, they're just different tones, right? You know, Batman versus Superman or Justice League is whiskey, whereas like Civil War, Avengers, champagne, right? It's not that one has real drama and the other doesn't, or one has humor and the other doesn't. It's just tone. So Red Notice is very much Ocean's 11 with True Lies, you know, kind of vibe with a little Thomas Crown affair thrown in for good measure, and I'm pretty excited about it, I gotta say.
Well, I am too now.
Cool.
Thanks again for being here, man.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Great talking to you.
Likewise.
Everybody, go see Skyscraper.
Please.
Full stop. There's no need to qualify that. Just go see it.